The soup was wrong. Not spoiled, not cold. Just wrong in a way I couldn't name yet, sitting there in the private dining room with crystal chandeliers throwing light across white tablecloths like scattered diamonds. My son's promotion party. Vice President of Regional Development. The youngest in company history. Everyone kept saying that. Youngest in company history. I lifted the spoon. French onion, they'd said. Caramelized, rich, topped with that cheese that costs more than my first car payment. The kind of place where they don't list prices on the menu because if you have to ask, you shouldn't be there. The first taste hit my tongue, and something in my brain screamed wrong before I could identify why. I swallowed anyway. You don't spit out soup at your son's celebration dinner. Dad, you okay? My son's voice came from across the table, casual, concerned in that practiced way people use when they're performing concern rather than feeling it. I nodded, reaching for my water glass. The liquid slid down my throat, and I felt it then. A burn, not hot, chemical, like swallowing angry bees. Fine, I managed. My voice came out rough. The table kept talking, 8 people around expensive china and wine glasses catching light. My son's spouse sat to his left, beautiful in that manufactured way, hair perfect, makeup precise as architecture. She was saying something about the new office, corner view, how they'd already picked out furniture. I took another sip of water. The burning spread. My son watched me, just for a second. His eyes tracked my hand to the glass, watched me swallow, then shifted back to the executive sitting beside him. A man named Reginald something. Silver hair, expensive suit, the kind of tan you get from owning a boat. The Hartford project was ambitious, Reginald was saying, but you pulled it off. Ahead of schedule, under budget. That's why we're here. My son smiled. Couldn't have done it without the right foundation. My father actually worked in municipal safety for 30 years. Building compliance, inspections. He taught me to respect the infrastructure. Everyone looked at me, polite smiles. The kind people give to old men at parties when they're mentioned but not really seen. That's wonderful, someone's wife said. I couldn't remember her name. I tried to smile back. My throat was closing, not fast, not dramatic like in movies, just a slow squeeze, like someone was testing how much pressure it takes before you notice you can't breathe anymore. I reached for my water again. My hand shook. My son's spouse noticed. Her eyes flicked to my trembling fingers, then to my son, then back to her wine. She took a sip. Smooth. Practiced. Like she'd rehearsed the motion. The soup is excellent, Reginald said. French onion is a lost art. I looked down at my bowl, still half full. Everyone else's bowls sat in front of them, untouched. They'd ordered it as an appetizer for the table, but no one had eaten any. Just me. The realization came slow, fighting through the growing panic in my chest. My throat burned worse now, and my tongue felt thick. I tried to swallow, and nothing worked right. The muscles didn't respond the way they should. I stood up, fast enough that my chair scraped back loud against the floor. Excuse me, I said, but it came out garbled. Wrong. Like my mouth was full of cotton and bees and that chemical taste that wouldn't stop spreading. Dad? My son stood too. Are you all right? Everyone was looking now. The conversation died. I tried to speak, tried to say something was wrong with the soup, but my throat was closing completely now and my vision started to tunnel at the edges, black creeping in like ink in water. I grabbed the table edge, white tablecloth bunched under my fingers. Someone call 911. That was Reginald, standing now, phone already out. But my son's hand was on my shoulder, steady, calm. Dad, look at me. Can you breathe? I couldn't. I tried to suck in air and got nothing. My lungs burned. My vision narrowed to a point. I looked at my son's face. He wasn't panicking. Everyone else was moving, talking, shouting into phones, and standing up so fast chairs fell over. The room filled with noise and motion and desperate activity. But my son's face was still, almost peaceful. His hand on my shoulder felt more like holding me in place than helping me stay up. I saw it then. Just a flicker. A micro-expression that crossed his face before he remembered to look worried. His mouth twitched at one corner. Not quite a smile. More like satisfaction at a job well executed. My knees buckled. I went down hard, catching myself on one hand while the other clawed at my throat. Someone screamed. High-pitched. Probably my son's spouse, playing her part. The floor was cold. Polished wood that cost more than most people make in a year. I could see shoes, expensive leather, everyone backing away, giving me space, except my son. He knelt beside me. His face was close to mine now. Worried, concerned, perfect performance. Hang on, Dad. Help is coming. I grabbed his shirt, twisted my fist in the expensive fabric, and pulled him closer, close enough that no one else could hear. My son, I gasped. Each word took everything I had. And the soup. His eyes widened, just slightly, just enough to confirm what I already knew. Then the professional mask slammed back down. He pulled back, gentle, like a concerned son extracting himself from his panicking father's grip. He's confused, he said to someone above us. Disoriented. This happened to my uncle once. Allergic reaction, peanut oil or something. I couldn't speak anymore. Couldn't breathe. The blackness was total now, except for a single point of light where my son's face floated. Worried, concerned, acting. Sirens screamed in the distance. I focused on breathing, on staying conscious, on memorizing every detail of this moment because I was going to need them later, if there was a later. The sirens got louder, closer. Someone was doing compressions on my chest now. Hard, rhythmic, professional. Not my son. He'd stepped back, making room for the emergency responders flooding into the private dining room. Possible anaphylaxis, someone said. Medical voice, crisp. Let's get him on oxygen. A mask pressed over my face. Cool air rushed in. Not enough. Still not enough. But something. A crack in the closing door. Can you hear me, sir? I need you to stay with me. I tried to nod. Manage something like it. Good. That's good. We're taking you to the hospital. Your son is riding with us? No, I tried to say it. Tried to make them understand. But the oxygen mask muffled everything, and my throat was still swollen shut, and the world was tilting as they lifted me onto a gurney. The ceiling slid past. Chandelier, crown molding, exit sign, night sky. Then the inside of an ambulance. Bright lights, equipment, hands moving efficiently, checking vitals, adjusting IVs. And my son's face, hovering at the edge of my vision, still concerned, still perfect. He's stable, the paramedic said. Vitals are improving. Whatever it was, we got here in time. Thank God, my son said. His hand found mine, squeezed it. I felt him press something into my palm. Small, hard, rectangular. A business card, maybe. The paramedic was busy with something, didn't see. My son leaned close. His lips nearly touched my ear. You're going to be fine, Dad, he whispered. Just a little scare. But you're old. These things happen, and you'll probably need some help for a while. Good thing I'm here to take care of things for you. Then he pulled back, released my hand. The concerned son again. I clutched whatever he'd pressed into my palm. Couldn't see it. Didn't need to. I knew what this was. This wasn't attempted murder. This was stage 1. The ambulance swayed around a corner. Sirens still screaming. My throat was opening slowly, air getting through the mask in larger doses. My vision cleared enough to see the roof of the ambulance. White metal, equipment racks. The paramedic's focused face as he monitored something on a screen. My son sat on the bench seat, phone out now, texting someone. His thumbs moved fast, efficient. All that concern had evaporated the moment the paramedic's attention shifted. I closed my eyes. Let them think I was unconscious. Let them think I was confused and disoriented and lucky to be alive. I was lucky, but not for the reasons they thought. Because I'd seen his face, that flicker of satisfaction, that moment of truth before the mask came down, and I'd felt him press that card into my palm like a promise, like a threat, like the opening move in a game he thought he'd already won. My hand tightened around it. Sharp edges bit into my skin. I was a municipal safety inspector for 30 years, building compliance, code enforcement. I knew how to read blueprints and trace violations and follow chains of responsibility until they reached the source. I knew how to be patient, I knew how to document, I knew how to wait for exactly the right moment to pull the support beam that brings the whole structure down. My son thought he was removing an obstacle. He had no idea what he'd actually done. He'd given me time, purpose, and absolute certainty that I was right about what needed to happen next. The ambulance pulled into the hospital bay. Lights flashed outside. Voices called out medical jargon. The doors opened and cold night air rushed in. They wheeled me out. My son walked beside the gurney, hand on my shoulder, face etched with worry. Academy Award worthy. I kept my eyes closed, but my hands stayed fisted around that card, hidden under the thin blanket they'd draped over me. And I thought about soup, about how no one else had touched theirs, about timing, about planning, about my son's face in that moment before he remembered to look concerned, about what happens when someone underestimates you because you're old and quiet and supposedly harmless, about revenge, not hot, not immediate, cold, procedural, systematic, The kind that dismantles everything you built while you watch and can't stop it because it's all legal, all documented, all perfectly justified. The kind I was very, very good at. The emergency room smelled like disinfectant and fear. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, too bright, turning everyone's skin the color of old newspaper. I lay on a bed in Bay 7, curtain half drawn, IV in my arm, oxygen cannula in my nose. Better. Breathing easier. Throat still raw but functional. The doctor stood at the foot of my bed, reading something on a tablet. Young, maybe 35, dark circles under his eyes that said he'd been on shift too long. His name tag read Dr. Philip Winters. "You're lucky," he said without looking up. "Another few minutes and we'd be having a different conversation." "What was it?" My voice came out scratchy, like I'd swallowed glass. "Severe reaction to something you ingested. Your throat swelled shut. Classic anaphylaxis presentation." He finally looked at me. "Do you have any known food allergies?" "No." "Shellfish? Nuts? Latex?" "No, nothing." He frowned, tapped something on the tablet. "Well, you do now. We had to hit you with epinephrine and antihistamines. You'll need to follow up with an allergist. Get tested. Figure out what triggered this so you can avoid it in the future." My son appeared in the gap of the curtain, still wearing his promotion dinner suit, still perfectly composed except for one detail I caught because I'd been watching for it. A spot on his cuff. Small, dark. Wine, probably. From when the glass tipped over. Or maybe not wine. "How is he?" "Perfect concern. Perfect son." "Stable," Dr. Winters said. "The reaction is controlled. We'll keep him for observation overnight. Make sure there's no secondary response. But he should be fine to go home tomorrow." "Thank God." My son moved to the bedside, put his hand on the rail. "Dad, you scared us." "Scared myself?" I watched his face. Nothing. Just concern and relief and exhaustion. The mask was perfect now. Hours to practice it. "Do you remember what you ate?" Dr. Winters asked. "Soup? French onion?" "Just soup?" I'd just started. First few spoonfuls. "Must have been something in the soup." The doctor made a note. "We'll run some tests, but with food allergies, sometimes it's a component. An oil, an additive, something processed with the onions. Did anyone else eat the soup?" "No." The word came out harder than I intended. Both of them looked at me. They'd just served it when I reacted. No one else had time. "Lucky for them," Dr. Winters said. He put the tablet down. "I want to keep you on oxygen for another hour. Make sure your airway stays stable. You'll be sore for a few days. Throat, chest, all normal. We'll send you home with an EpiPen and instructions." "Can I talk to him?" my son asked. "Just for a minute?" Dr. Winters checked his watch. 5 minutes. He needs rest." Then he left, pulling the curtain closed behind him. Silence settled. Just the beep of monitors and the distant sound of the ER's organized chaos beyond the curtain. My son sat in the chair beside the bed, leaned forward, elbows on knees, the picture of a concerned son keeping vigil. "Dad, I need to talk to you about something." "I'm fine." I kept my voice neutral. Tired, like someone who just survived a medical emergency and wanted to sleep. "I know, but this scared me. Really scared me." He paused, looked at his hands. "You're getting older, living alone. What if this happened at home? What if no one was there?" "I would have called 911. If you could reach the phone, if you stayed conscious long enough." He looked up. His eyes were earnest, convincing. "I've been thinking about this for a while. Even before tonight. You're in that house by yourself. Mom's been gone 3 years now. You don't have anyone checking on you." "I'm fine." "You almost died tonight." The words hung there, heavy, true enough to be weaponized. "I want to help," he continued. "I've already talked to Vanessa about it. We have the guest house. It's empty. You could move in. We'd be right there. No more worrying about whether you're okay." Vanessa, his spouse. I'd forgotten her name until now. "I don't need help. Dad." His voice got firmer, still gentle, but with steel underneath. "Be realistic. You're 62. You just had a major medical event. The doctor said you need to be monitored. What if there's a secondary reaction? What if you develop complications? Then I'll call 911 again. Don't be stubborn." He shifted in the chair. "Look, I know you value your independence. I get it. But this isn't about that anymore. This is about safety, about being smart." He pulled something from his jacket pocket. Papers. Folded. "I brought some documents. Just temporary. Just until we figure out what triggered this and get you stabilized." He unfolded them, set them on the bedside table where I could see. Legal documents. Dense text. Official letterhead. What is this? Temporary medical power of attorney. It just means if something happens, if you can't make decisions, I can make them for you. Only for medical stuff. Only temporary. I stared at the papers. The text swam. My eyes were still blurry from whatever they'd given me. And this one, he pulled out another sheet, is a caretaker agreement. It formalizes me helping you, makes it official so insurance will cover certain things, home health care, medical equipment, stuff like that. I don't need a caretaker. You almost died tonight. He kept saying that, hammering it home, building the case. I just need you to sign these, he said, for both our peace of mind. Then we can focus on getting you healthy again. I looked at the papers, then at him. His face was open, honest, concerned, almost perfect. But I caught it again. That flicker, a tiny tell in the corner of his mouth when he thought I wasn't watching closely enough. Satisfaction. This was the next step. Whatever that soup was supposed to do, this was always where it was going. Get me vulnerable. Get me dependent. Get me to sign over control. I'm tired, I said. Can we do this tomorrow? Something crossed his face. Frustration, maybe. But he covered it fast. Of course. You need rest. He folded the papers, put them back in his pocket. We'll deal with this when you're feeling better, but Dad, seriously think about the guest house. Vanessa's already making up the room. I'll think about it. Good. He stood, squeezed my shoulder. The same gesture from the ambulance. Possessive, controlling. I'm glad you're okay. Really glad. When I saw you go down like that, I thought... He trailed off, swallowed hard. Oscar-worthy performance. I'm fine. Get some rest. I'll be back in the morning. He moved toward the curtain, then paused, looked back. Oh, and Dad? The restaurant is really concerned. They want to cover all your medical expenses. They're terrified of liability. I told them we wouldn't sue, but they insisted. So don't worry about the bills. It's handled. Then he was gone, footsteps fading into the ER noise. I lay there, staring at the ceiling tiles, counting the water stains. The restaurant would cover expenses. Of course they would, because my son would make sure they did, would make sure everything was documented as an allergic reaction, an accident, nothing suspicious, nothing that would invite questions. And those papers, temporary medical power of attorney, caretaker agreement. I'd spent 30 years reading legal documents, building codes, compliance forms, liability waivers. I knew how lawyers wrote things that looked simple but weren't. Temporary meant whatever the person holding the papers decided it meant. Medical power of attorney could extend to financial decisions if the language was vague enough. Caretaker agreement could mean access to my bank accounts, my property, my assets. I needed to see those papers, actually read them, before I was supposed to sign them tomorrow when I was feeling better. I reached for the call button, pressed it. A nurse appeared. Middle-aged woman, tired eyes, efficient movements. Her badge said Rita. What do you need, hun? My son left some papers. Do you know where they went? She glanced around, spotted something on the counter by the sink. These? The folded documents. He'd left them. Probably figured I was too out of it to notice or care. Can I see them? She brought them over. You should rest. Deal with paperwork later. Can't sleep anyway. I took the papers. Thanks. She checked my monitors, adjusted my IV, then left. I unfolded the documents. The first was exactly what he'd said. Temporary medical power of attorney. But the language wasn't temporary at all. It was open-ended. Until such time as the principal is deemed competent by a licensed physician. Which physician? Who decided? The second document was worse. Caretaker agreement, yes, but it included clauses about asset management. In the event the principal is unable to manage daily affairs. Again, who decided unable? Who determined when I couldn't manage my own life? And there, in the small print at the bottom, a third section I hadn't seen him mention. Something about supplementary documentation to be provided as needed for insurance and legal purposes, which meant this was just the start. Sign these, and more would come. Each one taking another piece of control, another slice of autonomy, until I was just a signature machine, rubber stamping whatever he put in front of me. The door. The thought came clear and cold. He was trying to open the door. Get his foot in, establish the precedent. Old father has medical emergency, needs help, signs over some control. Then another emergency, then another, each one pushing the door wider until he could walk through and take whatever he wanted. My house, my savings, my pension, maybe more. I thought about that moment at the table, his face, his calm, how no one else had touched the soup, planned, all of it. But why? I was 62, not wealthy, not important, just a retired inspector living on a pension in a house that was paid off. Nothing worth stealing, nothing worth this kind of elaborate setup, unless there was something I didn't know about. I folded the papers, tucked them under my pillow. Rita came back. "How are you feeling?" "Throat hurts. Can I get some water?" "Sure." She filled a cup from the sink, brought it over with a straw. "Small sips. Your throat's still irritated." The water was cold, clean, no chemical taste, no burn, just water. "Rita, can I ask you something?" "Sure, hon." "That doctor, Winters, he said this was anaphylaxis, food allergy." "That's what it looked like. But I've never had food allergies, never. Ate everything my whole life, no problems." She nodded, checked my vitals on the monitor. "Sometimes allergies develop, adult onset. Happens more than people think." "What causes it?" "Lots of things. Changes in immune system, exposure to new substances, sometimes stress." She adjusted my pillow. "Why? You worried it'll happen again?" "Yeah. That's what the allergy testing is for. They'll figure out what triggered it. You'll avoid that thing. You'll be fine." But she didn't sound convinced. I heard it in her voice, the little note of doubt healthcare workers get when something doesn't quite fit the standard pattern. "I can't discuss that. You'd have to ask Dr. Winters. Off the record." She looked at me, seemed to decide something. "Elevated histamine, elevated eosinophils, consistent with allergic reaction, but what?" "But the levels were weird. Too high too fast. Usually anaphylaxis builds. You eat something, body reacts over minutes or hours. Yours was almost instant. And the levels were through the roof, like you'd been exposed to a massive dose of something very specific." "What does that mean?" "Could mean you have a really severe allergy. Could mean the amount you ingested was really high. Could mean—" She trailed off. "Could mean what?" "Nothing. I shouldn't speculate." She moved toward the curtain. "Get some rest. You're stable now. That's what matters." But her face said something different. She left. I lay there, thinking. Massive dose. Too high too fast. Too specific. Not an allergy. An irritant. Something added to the soup. Something meant to cause exactly this kind of reaction. Dramatic enough to be scary. Survivable enough to not raise murder suspicions. Just enough to make me vulnerable. To make me sign papers. I pulled them out from under my pillow. Read them again. Slower this time. The third section. Supplementary documentation. I'd skimmed it before. Now I read it carefully. It referenced other documents. Specifically, it mentioned existing estate planning materials and updated beneficiary designations. Estate planning. Beneficiaries. I'd updated my will 6 months ago. Standard stuff. Left everything to my son because he was my only child. His mother was gone. No siblings, no other family. Simple. But beneficiaries. That meant insurance, retirement accounts, the pension I'd worked 30 years for. I'd never updated those. They still listed my wife, because I'd never thought to change them after she died. My son had, though. I'd bet money on it. Somehow he'd gotten access to those accounts, changed the beneficiaries, made himself the recipient of everything I had, and if I was incapacitated, if I needed a caretaker, if I signed over medical power of attorney, he could do whatever he wanted. The curtain moved. I shoved the papers under my pillow again. But it wasn't my son. It was someone else. A woman. Late 30s, professional suit, expensive shoes. She carried a leather portfolio. "Mr. Brennan?" Not a question. She knew who I was. "Yes?" "I'm Lisa Torrance. I'm with Hargrove and Stein." She pulled a business card from her pocket, set it on my bedside table, attorney at law. "Your son asked me to stop by. Make sure you're comfortable. See if you need anything." Another one, another person in the machine. "I'm fine." "I'm glad to hear that. What happened tonight sounds terrifying." She opened her portfolio. "I just need you to sign a few things. Standard hospital forms, consent for continued treatment, privacy waivers, that sort of thing." She pulled out papers. Lots of them, set them on the rolling table beside my bed. "Your son mentioned you might be confused. After the reaction. It's normal. The medications can cause some disorientation." She pulled out a pen. "Expensive. Silver." I'll walk you through each one. Make sure you understand what you're signing. My throat was raw. My head hurt. My vision was still a little blurry, but I wasn't confused. I was very, very clear. I'd like to wait until tomorrow, when I'm feeling better. Her smile didn't change, but her eyes got harder. Of course, but these really are just formalities. The hospital needs them tonight, for insurance purposes. Otherwise, you might be responsible for the costs. Your son said the restaurant was covering everything, but we need these signed to process that. Insurance, liability, restaurant coverage. All true enough to be believable. All lies wrapped in truth. I'll sign them tomorrow. Mr. Brennan. Her voice got firmer. Professional, like she was talking to a difficult client. Your son is trying to help you. We're all trying to help you. These documents protect you. They make sure you're taken care of. But if you don't sign them, if you insist on waiting, well, things could get complicated. The hospital could decide to hold you for psychiatric evaluation, make sure the medications didn't affect your judgment. That could take days. There it was, the threat. Subtle, wrapped in concern, but clear. Sign now, or we'll make you sign later. Get out, I said. She blinked. Excuse me? Get out. Take your papers. Get out. Mr. Brennan, I understand you're upset, but I'm trying to help you. I said, get out. I reached for the call button, pressed it hard, kept pressing it. Rita appeared. What's wrong? This woman is harassing me. I want her to leave. Rita looked at Lisa Torrance, then at me. Ma'am, visiting hours are over. You need to go. I'm his attorney. I never hired her, I said. She's lying. Lisa's face went cold. Professional mask dropped. I saw the real person underneath. Hard. Calculating. Used to getting what she wanted. You're making a mistake, she said quietly. Your son is worried about you. We're all worried about you. And if you can't make rational decisions right now, maybe you do need help making them. Leave, Rita said, firmer now. Or I'll call security. Lisa gathered her papers, slid them back into her portfolio, picked up her business card from my bedside table. We'll talk tomorrow, when you're thinking more clearly. Then she was gone. Rita checked my vitals again. You okay? Yeah, thank you. What was that about? My son is trying to help me, whether I want help or not. She didn't say anything, just adjusted my IV. But I saw understanding in her eyes. She'd seen this before, family members circling, paperwork appearing, pressure mounting. Rita, I need you to do something for me. What? Don't let anyone else in here tonight. No visitors, no lawyers, no one except medical staff. Can you do that? She looked at me for a long moment. I can put a note in your chart. Strict rest orders, no visitors. Thank you. Get some sleep. You've had a long night. She left. I lay there in the dark, listening to the ER sounds beyond my curtain. Monitors beeping, people talking, someone crying, someone laughing. My son had moved fast, lawyer already lined up, papers already prepared, everything ready to go the moment I was vulnerable enough. This wasn't opportunistic. This was planned. The soup was just the trigger, the opening move. Everything else had been prepared in advance, waiting for the right moment to deploy. Which meant he'd been planning this for a while, weeks, maybe months. And if he'd been planning that long, there was more I didn't know about yet. More pieces on the board I hadn't seen. I needed information. I needed to understand what he was really after. What was worth this kind of elaborate setup? And I needed to do it before he came back tomorrow with more papers and more pressure and more threats wrapped in concern. I pulled out my phone. They'd given it back to me when I was admitted. I checked the time. 2:47 a.m. Then I opened my contacts. Scrolled down to a name I hadn't called in 2 years. Dennis Kowalski, my old partner from the inspector's office. Retired now, like me. Living in Arizona, playing golf, living the good life. But before retirement, Dennis had been the best records guy I'd ever met. Could trace a building permit through 6 different departments and 3 name changes without breaking a sweat. I sent him a text. Need a favor? Urgent. Call when you can. Then I closed my eyes. Not to sleep, to think, to plan. My son thought he'd opened the door, thought he'd gotten his foot in, thought the hard part was over. He had no idea the door he'd actually opened, the one I was about to walk through. The construction site was abandoned. 3-story frame, no walls yet, just skeleton steel against the night sky. Orange construction lights cast shadows that moved wrong. They'd brought me here in a black SUV. Professional, quiet. the kind of people who knew how to move someone against their will without attracting attention. One of them gripped my arm. Not violent, just firm, steering me between equipment, around material stacks, toward the center of the structure. Where are we going? Your son wants to talk, face to face. Clear the air. This isn't talking. It is if you cooperate. They led me up a ramp, plywood over metal framework. Second floor, open to the sky. Wind cut through the steel beams. My son stood in the middle, Vanessa beside him, both backlit by construction lights, both absolutely still. Dad. My son's voice was calm. Too calm. Thanks for coming. I didn't come, I was brought. Semantics. You're here. That's what matters. He moved closer, hands in his pockets. Casual, like we were meeting for coffee. We need to settle this. Tonight. There's nothing to settle. I'm going to the SEC. I'm exposing everything. No, you're not. He pulled something from his pocket. Phone, held it up. Because I have this. He pressed play. Video, shaky, dark, but clear enough. Me, at the municipal building, in the archives, photographing documents, the security guard's voice in the background. You need to leave before I call this in. My son stopped the video. Breaking and entering, theft of confidential documents, a false representation to a security officer. That's what they'll call it when I turn this over to the police. I didn't steal anything. You photographed confidential project files without authorization. That's theft, digital theft. And with your history of confusion, with your medical emergency, with the lawyer's testimony about your paranoia, a prosecutor would have an easy case. I'm a retired inspector. I have clearance. Had clearance. Past tense. You don't anymore. And you knew that. But you went anyway. Broke in, stole documents. He put the phone away. So here's how this works. You give me your laptop. Give me your phone. Give me every copy of those photographs, and I forget about this video. Forget about pressing charges. We go back to the original plan. You move into the guest house. I take care of you. We all move forward. And if I refuse, then I call the police. Right now, you get arrested. Your testimony becomes worthless. The confused old man who broke into a government building and stole files to support his paranoid conspiracy theories. No one will believe anything you say after that. Vanessa stepped forward. This doesn't have to be difficult. We're offering you a good life, security, care. All you have to do is stop fighting. Stop letting you steal from me. We're not stealing. We're managing. You're old. You had a medical emergency. You need help. We're providing it. That's not theft. That's family. I looked at both of them, studied their faces. Saw no guilt, no shame, just calculation, just the cold math of people who'd decided the ends justified the means. My son sighed. No, Dad. I tried to scare you, make you vulnerable, make you compliant, just make you sick enough to need help, to sign the papers, to let me take over. It was a controlled reaction, measured dose, no risk. You can't control that. But I didn't. You're fine. Dramatic, yes. Scary, yes. But fine. And it worked, almost. Until you got stubborn. This is insane. You're insane. I'm practical. He moved closer. Hartford is failing. The inspection is next week. When it fails, when the regulators start asking questions, I need protection. I need distance. And you're my insurance. The respected inspector who supervised my early career, who taught me everything, who might have made mistakes, who might have signed things he shouldn't have, who conveniently can't defend himself because he's being cared for by his devoted son. I never signed anything for Hartford. No, but you did for other projects. Your signature is on hundreds of documents, and some of them are going to look suspicious when examined closely. Some of them are going to raise questions. And when I tell them you were becoming confused toward the end of your career, when I show them medical records of your recent emergency, when I demonstrate you've been paranoid and erratic, they'll believe those signatures were mistakes, errors. The unfortunate result of an aging inspector who didn't know when to retire. You've thought of everything. I had to. This isn't amateur hour. This is survival. Mine, Vanessa's, our future, and you're standing in the way. So what now? He laughed. No, that would raise too many questions. Too suspicious. Right after the hospital. Right after the lawyer's visit. No, you're going to have an accident. One of the security contractors moved behind me. The other one stepped to the side, boxing me in. This is a construction site, my son continued. Dangerous place. Old man with a medical condition wandering around at night. Poor visibility, open floors, easy to fall, easy to die, tragic accident. People know I'm here. Who? Dennis? The old partner you called? The one who's been helping you? He won't talk. Not when I show him the video of you breaking into the municipal building. Not when I explain you were paranoid, confused, acting erratically. He'll assume you got disoriented, came here on your own, had an accident. Dennis knows about the forgeries. So what? He has no proof except what you gave him. Photographs you obtained illegally. Worthless as evidence. And once you're gone, once I have your laptop and phone, that evidence disappears. All of it. I looked at the drop behind me. 2 stories. Concrete below. The kind that looks accidental. This won't work, I said. Too many coincidences. Too convenient. It will work because no one will look that close. Old man has medical emergency. Gets paranoid. Accuses his son of conspiracy. Breaks into government building. Steals files. Then dies in construction accident. Sad, tragic, but not suspicious. Just another elderly person who didn't know when to stop. You're wrong. I'm not. I've planned this for months. Covered every angle, every contingency. You're the only loose end, and loose ends get tied off. He nodded to the contractors. They moved, I stepped back. Toward the edge, toward the drop. Last chance, my son said. Give me the laptop, the phone, walk away, live. No. Then fall. The contractor behind me moved fast. Professional, hands on my shoulders. Shoving. I twisted, grabbed his wrist, used his momentum. 70 pounds lighter than him, but I'd been in fights before. Union disputes, code violations that got physical. I knew how to move. He went past me, off balance, toward the edge, then stopped. The other contractor had him, pulled him back, both of them regrouping. Dad, don't make this harder. My son's voice was tired. You can't win. You're old. They're professionals. This ends one way. Maybe, but not the way you think. I pulled out my phone. The contractors moved, but I was faster. Pressed send on a message I'd queued before they'd grabbed me at my house. To Dennis, to my old inspector friend, to 3 different regulatory agencies. The complete case, every document, every photograph, every piece of evidence. All sent. What did you do? My son's voice was sharp now. I sent everything. Right now. They have it all. You're bluffing. Check your phone. You'll see. Messages going out. Multiple recipients. Law firms. Government agencies. SEC. State Inspector General. The county prosecutor. All of them getting the full Hartford file right now. My son grabbed his phone. Checked. His face went white. You sent it to Hargrove and Stein? My lawyers? Among others. Figured they should know their client is about to go down for fraud. Probably want to distance themselves, preserve their reputation, maybe cooperate with investigators in exchange for immunity. You can't do this. I just did. I'll delete them. Hack your email. Destroy the evidence. Too late. It's sent, delivered, opened, already being read. And I included your video of me at the municipal building, explained exactly why I was there, what I was documenting, how I was gathering evidence of your fraud. Context matters. And with context, that video makes you look guilty, not me. Vanessa grabbed his arm. We need to leave. Now. Before the police come. They won't come yet. Takes time to process evidence. File charges. But they will come. Tomorrow. Maybe the next day. And when they do, they'll have everything. Every forged signature. Every fake inspection. Every fraudulent document. All tied to you. All provable. All prosecutable. You destroyed me, my son said quietly. No, you destroyed yourself. I just documented it. One of the contractors moved toward me. My son held up a hand. Stop. Let him go. But the boss said, I said let him go. The contractors backed off, confused, waiting for orders. My son stared at me. You really did it. You really burned it all down. Yes. Why? I'm your son. Your only child. You'd really destroy me? You tried to destroy me first. What did you expect? I expected you to understand, to see that I was desperate, to help me, like a father should. I spent 30 years teaching you to do things right, to respect the system, to value integrity. You learned nothing. I learned plenty. I learned the system is rigged. I learned integrity is for people who can afford it. I learned desperate times require desperate measures. You just never got desperate enough to see it. Then I'm glad I didn't. Vanessa pulled him toward the ramp. We're leaving, now. My son didn't move, just kept staring at me. This isn't over. Yes, it is. The evidence is out. The investigation will start. Hartford will fail its inspection. Everything falls apart. It's done. You think some emails will stop me? Stop Reginald? Stop all the people with money and power who need this to go away? You're naive, Dad. You have no idea what you've started. Then I guess we'll both find out. They left. The contractors followed. Footsteps on metal. Engines starting, vehicles driving away. I stood alone in the construction skeleton. 2 stories up, wind cutting through, heart pounding. I pulled out my phone, called Dennis. Tommy, what the hell? I just got your email. This is huge. I know. Did you forward it like I asked? Yeah, to everyone. State Inspector General, Attorney General, FBI White Collar Crime Division, everyone you listed. But Tommy, you need to get somewhere safe. If your son knows you sent this... He knows. I just told him. Then you're in danger. Real danger. Come to Arizona, tonight. Stay with me until this blows over. Can't. I need to be here. Need to make sure the investigation actually happens. Need to testify. Need to see this through. Tommy, I'll be careful, I promise. But I started this. I'm finishing it. I hung up, stood there in the dark construction site, smelling cement and metal and cold night air. My son was right about one thing. This wasn't over. Not yet. Sending the evidence was step 1, but evidence alone doesn't convict, doesn't stop powerful people, doesn't break the machine. I needed more. Needed to make sure the investigation couldn't be buried, couldn't be derailed, couldn't be explained away with lawyers and money and political pressure. I needed leverage. Real leverage. The kind that forces action. I climbed down the ramp. Got in my car, drove. Not home. Home wasn't safe. They knew where I lived. Knew my patterns. Knew how to find me. I drove to a hotel. Cheap one. Cash only. Checked in under a fake name. The kind of place that doesn't ask questions. Room smelled like old cigarettes and disinfectant. But it had a lock, a bed, internet. I opened my laptop, started working. The evidence I'd sent was damning, but it was technical, dense, the kind of thing that requires expertise to understand. Prosecutors could work with it, investigators could trace it, but the public, the media, they'd need something simpler, something dramatic. I needed to build a public case before the private one could be buried. I opened a new document, started writing, not an inspection report, not a legal brief, a story. The story of a son who tried to poison his father, who forged signatures, who built a career on fraud, who tried to use his own father as a scapegoat when it all came apart. Simple, clear, dramatic. The kind of story that media loves. The kind that generates outrage. The kind that can't be quietly swept away. I wrote it all. Every detail, every piece of evidence, every connection, made it readable, made it compelling, made it impossible to ignore. Then I sent it. To journalists, local papers, national outlets, investigative reporters who specialized in corporate fraud, everyone I could think of. Subject line, Construction Executive Poisons Father to Cover Corporate Fraud. Within an hour, responses started coming. Reporters wanting to verify, wanting to interview, wanting the exclusive. I responded to all of them, offered copies of documents, offered testimony, offered everything. By midnight, the first article posted. Local news website, basic outline. Allegations of corporate fraud and elder abuse under investigation. By 2 a.m., bigger outlets picked it up. Regional Development Company faces fraud charges after employee's father files complaint. By 4 a.m., it was national. Whistleblower claims son attempted poisoning to cover construction fraud. I sat there watching it spread. Social media amplifying, comments multiplying, outrage building. The story was out. The pressure was mounting. No amount of legal maneuvering could bury this now. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Brennan, this is Agent Mitchell from the FBI. We received your documentation regarding the Hartford project. I'd like to meet with you, discuss your allegations. Take an official statement? When? Today, as soon as possible. Okay, where? He gave me an address. Federal Building downtown, 9 a.m. I agreed. Hung up. Then another call. State Inspector General. Same message. Want to meet? Want to talk? Want official statement? Then the county prosecutor, then SEC. Everyone moving at once. The machine finally grinding forward. I lay back on the cheap hotel bed, stared at the water-stained ceiling, exhausted, terrified, but alive and winning. My son had tried to destroy me, had planned it perfectly, had covered every angle, but he'd forgotten one thing. The one thing I'd spent 30 years doing. The one skill that defined my entire career. I knew how to document violations, how to build cases that couldn't be dismissed, how to trace responsibility to its source, how to make the system work even when powerful people wanted it to fail. And I just used all of that against him. The evidence was delivered, the public was watching, the investigators were mobilized, the wheels were turning. Nothing could stop it now. Not lawyers, not money, not powerful friends. My son's carefully constructed fraud was coming apart. His career was ending, his freedom was forfeit, and I was the one who made it happen. Not with violence, not with revenge, with procedure, with documentation, with the same methodical patience I'd used my entire career. The system was my weapon, and I just aimed it directly at my own son. The FBI office smelled like government efficiency. Clean floors, bland paint, motivational posters about integrity that everyone walked past without seeing. Agent Mitchell was younger than I expected. Early 40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. He led me to a conference room, bare table, recording equipment, windows that showed downtown but nothing interesting. "Thank you for coming in, Mr. Brennan." He set down a file folder. Thick. My documentation. "I've reviewed your materials. Very thorough, very detailed. I spent 30 years writing inspection reports. Old habit. Good habit. This would have taken us months to piece together. You did it in days." He opened the folder, pulled out photographs. My photos from the municipal building. "Let's start with these. Raymond Garrett's signature on Hartford project reports. You're certain he was deceased when these were filed?" "Positive. Died 8 months before the first report was signed. Cancer, quick decline, never worked those final months." "And you believe your son forged these signatures?" "I know he did. His project, his responsibility, his promotion that depended on Hartford's success, no one else had motive." Mitchell nodded, made notes. "We'll need to examine the originals, compare signatures, bring in forensic document examiners, but preliminary analysis supports your conclusion. These don't match Garrett's legitimate signatures." "What about the other inspectors? The other 3 projects I documented?" "Same story. All deceased or retired before the signatures appear. All linked to your son's projects. All showing similar forgery patterns. We're building a comprehensive fraud case. It's going to be substantial." "How long until charges?" "Depends. We need to interview witnesses, examine original documents, build timelines, verify every connection. Federal prosecution requires absolute certainty. No holes, no room for reasonable doubt." He looked up from his notes. "But between you and me, 6 months, maybe less. Your son is looking at multiple felony counts." "Good. There's more. Your documentation about the beneficiary changes, the forged power of attorney documents. We've contacted the law firm holding those, Hargrove and Stein. They're cooperating." "They are?" "Fully. Once they saw your evidence, once they understood their client had committed forgery using their services, they immediately preserved all documents, agreed to turn over everything. They're not risking their reputation protecting your son." "What about Reginald Thornton, the senior VP who approved these projects?" Mitchell's expression hardened. "That's where it gets complicated. Thornton has powerful connections, legal representation that's already pushing back, claiming he had no knowledge of the forgeries, claiming he relied on submitted reports, claiming he's a victim too. He approved everything. His signature is on every final permit." "We know. But proving he knew about the forgeries versus proving he should have known, those are different standards. He might walk or get a slap. White-collar defendants with resources rarely face the same consequences as people like your son." "That's not justice." "No, but it's reality. We'll pursue charges, we'll build the case, but I'm managing expectations. The bigger fish sometimes swim away." I sat back, processed that. My son would pay, but the person who enabled him, who created the system that allowed it, who benefited from it, might escape. "What about the soup?" I asked. "The hospital incident. He admitted it was deliberate, admitted he tried to make me sick to coerce me into signing documents. That's attempted assault, potentially elder abuse. But it's your word against his. No physical evidence. The hospital classified it as allergic reaction. The soup was disposed of. Nothing to test, nothing to prove." He confessed. "Last night, at the construction site." "Do you have a recording?" "No." "Then it's hearsay. Won't hold up. His lawyers will claim you misunderstood, claim you were traumatized, claim it was a misunderstanding between concerned son and paranoid father. Without evidence, it goes nowhere." So he gets away with that part. Probably, but the fraud charges are solid. Multiple counts. Years in prison. That's something. Something. But not everything, Mitchell continued. There's one more issue we need to discuss, the video. Of me at the municipal building. Yes, your son provided it to us. Claims you broke in, stole confidential documents. He's pushing for charges against you. I was gathering evidence of his fraud? I understand. And given the circumstances, given what you were documenting, I don't think any prosecutor will pursue charges. But officially, you didn't have authorization, you did access restricted files, it creates a complication. Will it compromise the case against him? No, your methods weren't ideal, but the evidence itself is legitimate. What matters is whether the forgeries exist, not how they were discovered. But it might affect your credibility as a witness. Defense will use it, paint you as biased, vengeful, someone who broke the law to hurt his own son. They can paint me however they want. The documents speak for themselves. They do, but juries are human. They respond to narratives. And the narrative of an angry father prosecuting his successful son, that plays differently than the narrative of a heroic whistleblower. Then what's your advice? Stay clean from here on. No more unauthorized access. No more aggressive moves. Let the system work. Let us build the case properly. Don't give defense attorneys ammunition. I nodded. Understanding. Frustrated, but understanding. Mitchell stood, extended his hand. Thank you for your cooperation, Mr. Brennan. You did the right thing. Difficult thing. But right. Not many people would have the courage. He tried to destroy me. I defended myself. Most people would have just taken the deal, moved into the guest house, accepted the help, let their son take control. You chose the hard path. That matters. We shook hands. He walked me out. I left the federal building feeling hollow, accomplished but hollow. The wheels were turning. The investigation was real. My son would face consequences. But it wasn't satisfaction I felt, just exhaustion, just the weight of what I'd done, what I'd had to do. Outside, the sun was too bright. The city was too loud. Everything felt wrong. My phone buzzed. Text from Dennis. Saw the news. You're famous. You okay? Yeah. At FB. Gave statement. Case is moving forward. Good. When are you coming to Arizona? Not yet. Too much to finish here. Tommy, you can't stay there. Your son knows where you live. He's desperate, dangerous. Come here. Let this play out from a distance. I need to testify. Need to see it through. Can't do that from Arizona. Stubborn bastard. Learned from the best. I put my phone away. Started walking. No destination. Just moving. The city had changed. Or I had. Hard to tell. Every street corner felt like a place my son might be waiting. Every car felt like surveillance. Every stranger felt like threat. Paranoia. The gift my son had given me. Permanent distrust of everything. I found myself at a coffee shop. Sat outside. Watched people pass. Normal people with normal problems. Jobs and relationships and plans for the weekend. Everything that used to be my life. Before my son tried to poison me, before I had to destroy him to survive. A woman sat at the next table. Young, maybe 30. Laptop open. Working on something. She looked up, smiled politely, went back to her work. Normal interaction. Normal day. Normal world. I wondered if I'd ever feel normal again. If I'd ever trust soup again. Ever trust family again. Ever trust anything again. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me pick up. Mr. Brennan. Yes? This is Reginald Thornton. We need to talk. I sat up straight. I have nothing to say to you. Please, don't hang up. 5 minutes. That's all I ask. Why would I give you 5 minutes? Because I can help you, and you can help me. Mutual interest. I'm not interested in deals. Not a deal. Information, context, things you need to know before this goes any further. The FBI has everything they need. They have documents. They don't have understanding. There's a difference. He paused. Meet me. 1 hour. Corner of 5th and Madison. Public place. Broad daylight. Nothing sinister. Just conversation. What makes you think I'd meet you? Because you want the whole story. Because something about this doesn't add up, and you know it. Because your son's fraud is worse than you think, and you need to understand how deep it goes before the prosecution starts. He hung up. I sat there. Coffee getting cold. Weighing the risk. Reginald Thornton, Senior VP. The one who approved everything, the one Agent Mitchell said might walk, the one with powerful connections and expensive lawyers. Meeting him was stupid, potentially dangerous, definitely a trap. But he was right about one thing. Something didn't add up. My son was a project manager, mid-level, ambitious but not powerful, not the kind of person who could orchestrate fraud across 4 major projects. Not alone. Someone higher up had to have enabled it, facilitated it, benefited from it. And if I was going to finish this, really finish it, I needed to understand the whole machine, not just the visible parts. I checked the time, 53 minutes until the meeting. Enough time to get there, scope it out, see if it felt like an ambush. I left the coffee shop, walked to my car, drove to 5th and Madison, corner location, busy intersection, restaurants and shops, lots of foot traffic, public, visible, as safe as any meeting could be. I parked, walked the perimeter, looked for anything suspicious, black SUVs, men in suits, security contractors. Nothing. Just normal afternoon in a busy city. I waited on the corner, watched, ready to leave at first sign of trouble. A car pulled up, expensive, black, tinted windows, the kind executives drive. Reginald stepped out, alone. No security, no backup visible. He wore casual clothes, button-down shirt, slacks, like he was meeting a friend for lunch. He walked over, hands visible, non-threatening. "Thank you for coming. 5 minutes, then I leave." "Fair enough. Walk with me?" We walked, down the sidewalk, past shops and restaurants, just 2 men talking, nothing remarkable. "Your son told me what happened," Reginald said. "The construction site, the confrontation, your evidence going public, everything. Good, then you know you're finished." "Probably, but that's not why I wanted to talk. I wanted to tell you something you need to know before you testify." "I'm listening." "Your son didn't start this. I did." I stopped walking, looked at him. "Hartford was my project," he continued. "My vision, my budget. Your son was just the manager, the person who executed my instructions, including the forgeries." "You ordered him to forge inspection reports?" "Not explicitly, but I created conditions where it was necessary. Impossible timelines, insufficient budgets, pressure to deliver no matter what. I knew corners would be cut. I didn't ask how, didn't want to know. Plausible deniability." "That's not a defense." "It's not meant to be. It's context. Your son is guilty, absolutely, but he's not the villain of this story. He's the sacrifice, the junior person who takes the fall while senior management claims ignorance." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I'm tired of it. Tired of sacrificing good people to protect broken systems. Tired of watching careers destroyed while the real architects walk away clean." He looked at me. "I'm 63 years old. I've made my money, built my reputation, and I'm disgusted by what I've become, by what I've enabled. You want absolution? No, I want consequences. Real ones. For everyone involved, including me." He pulled out an envelope, handed it to me. "This is my full testimony. Everything I know, every decision I made, every order I gave, every person I pressured to cut corners, all of it. Documented, signed, notarized." I took the envelope, opened it, scanned the contents. Legal document, sworn statement, naming names, detailing fraud, implicating himself and others. "Why give this to me?" "Because the FBI won't pursue me aggressively. They'll take my lawyer's word that I didn't know. They'll let me plead to reduce charges, pay a fine, retire quietly. That's how it always works for people at my level." "And you don't want that?" "I want accountability, real accountability, for everyone, including myself. So I'm giving you ammunition, use it. Make sure the prosecution can't let me walk. Make sure everyone who enabled this pays the price. This implicates you in multiple felonies." "Yes, you'll go to prison." "Probably, but I'll sleep better." He turned to leave, then stopped. "One more thing. Your son. He's not just guilty of fraud. He's guilty of something worse. Something you don't know yet." "What?" "The Hartford building. The one built on forged inspections. It has structural problems, serious ones. The foundation is compromised. The steel framework is inadequate. It's not safe. And your son knows this, has known for 6 months. But he can't admit it without admitting the fraud. So he's hoping it holds. Hoping nothing goes wrong. Hoping the problems don't manifest until after the final inspection gives it official approval." "How many people work in that building?" 400, maybe more. Offices, retail, residential. All occupied, all at risk. And you did nothing?" I didn't know until recently. Your son was supposed to fix it quietly, retrofit without anyone noticing. But he can't. The work required would expose the original fraud. So he's gambling with lives, hoping the building doesn't fail, hoping his career survives, hoping luck carries him through. That's criminal negligence. Worse, it's knowing endangerment. If that building fails, if people die, he's looking at manslaughter, maybe murder. And so am I. He met my eyes. That's why I'm talking to you. That's why I'm confessing. Because I enabled this. I created the pressure that led to this. And I can't live with that. He walked away, got in his car, drove off. I stood on the corner, envelope in my hand, mind racing. 400 people, working and living in a building that might collapse. That was built on fraud. That was held together by hope and luck, and my son's desperate gamble that nothing would go wrong. The final inspection was scheduled for Friday, 3 days from now. If the inspectors found nothing, if they signed off, the building would be officially approved, legally protected, difficult to challenge, and my son would be protected too. Because once the building passed inspection, once it was deemed safe, the fraud became invisible. Just paperwork errors, technical violations, nothing that justified evacuation or demolition. But if the building failed, if something went wrong before Friday, if structural problems manifested, people would die, and my son would be responsible. I opened my phone, called Agent Mitchell. "Mr. Brennan, what can I do for you?" "I just met with Reginald Thornton. He gave me his full confession, everything, documented, notarized." Silence. Then, "He confessed? To you? Why?" "Guilt. Conscience. Doesn't matter, I'm bringing it to you. But there's something else, something urgent." I told him about Hartford, the structural problems, the occupied building, the risk. "Jesus," Mitchell said. "How certain is Thornton about this? Certain enough to confess, certain enough to implicate himself in potential manslaughter charges. We need to evacuate that building, today. Get inspectors in there, real ones, assess the damage." "And my son?" "If people are in danger, if he knew and did nothing, that elevates this beyond fraud. That's criminal negligence, reckless endangerment. If anyone dies, it's manslaughter, possibly murder, depending on what he knew and when. Then move fast. The final inspection is Friday. After that, everything gets harder. We're moving. I'll contact local building authorities, get emergency inspectors deployed. We'll shut it down before anything happens." He hung up. I stood there, envelope in my hand, feeling the weight of it. The weight of Reginald's confession, the weight of 400 lives at risk, the weight of my son's choices finally coming due. This was bigger than I'd thought, bigger than fraud, bigger than forgery. This was about lives, about buildings full of people who didn't know they were working and living in a structure held together by lies. My son had done this, had gambled with hundreds of lives to save his career, had prioritized his ambition over human safety, and I was about to destroy him for it. Not with revenge, not with anger, with documentation, with evidence, with the same procedural justice I'd spent my career enforcing. But it felt hollow, because he was still my son, still the child I'd raised, still the person I'd loved before he became this. And now I was the one who'd exposed him, who'd ended his career, who'd put him on a path to prison, maybe for life if anyone died. I thought about calling him, telling him it was over, giving him a chance to confess, to fix it, to evacuate the building himself before the authorities did it for him. But I didn't, because he'd had chances, multiple chances, to stop, to fix it, to do the right thing. Instead, he'd tried to poison me, tried to steal from me, tried to use me as a shield for his crimes. He'd made his choices. Now he'd face them. I drove to the FBI office, delivered Reginald's confession, gave my statement, did everything the system required. Then I went back to my hotel room, sat on the bed, stared at the ceiling, and waited for Friday, for the inspection, for the moment when everything would finally, irrevocably fall apart.